Hello and welcome to After Work and episode 2 of our Road to Cambridge series. My name is Saadadeen.
And my name is Sulaiman, and today we are very lucky to be joined with a good friend of mine and Saadadeen's. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hello guys, my name is Zakaria Mustiri. I'm studying aerospace engineering at Churchill College and I'm in my fourth year. And I just want to say I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
That's good. You weren't forced to say that line. That's good.
To get a clearer idea about your journey, I think a good place to start is right at the beginning. So tell me a little bit about your neighborhood, your family, and how that informed the relationship you have with education.
I'd first like to say it's probably my neighborhood probably has had the least influence out of the things you've named.
Interesting.
Just because I didn't really meet a lot of people my age in my neighborhood, maybe like one or two, but it was never really it didn't really have any influence on my academic journey. I think it's more my family. I think my parents did degrees in Algeria and then they came over, and sadly they weren't able to use their degrees at the time because they weren't accepted. And that's in itself that's a motivation. Just that alone, just the fact that my parents weren't able to use what they learned. So hopefully I can learn something and use it, and hopefully they would be proud of that. And
so you say that your neighborhood didn't have an instrumental effect on your kind of educational journey, but just to kind of give the audience a bit more background, where did you grow up, and kind of what do you remember about the neighborhood that you grew up in?
Yeah, fair enough. I grew up in Hammersmith, West London.
Come on, gang.
Yeah, quiet area, relatively quiet, to comparing to other places in London. A lot of old people around my area, I think. Still, quiet, nice area. I didn't go to primary school in that area. It was maybe 20 minutes away in Fulham. That's where I went to primary school. I think the most influential thing in my journey was, I think, my drive itself. Because, so my parents did influence me, but it's definitely a small, maybe 20%. I'll give you numbers in it. I'm an engineer. There's maybe 20% roughly, give or take. And the rest, I think, is because from a very young age, from year 3 or something, I knew that I wanted to be an engineer. And I didn't look at anything else. I saw medicine, I was like, no. I saw, history, I was like, no. I knew engineering.
Moving on to GCSE and...
Crunch time.
Yeah, so...
Come on.
Tell us a little bit about where your head was at. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So year 9, my school forced us to start in year 9. I'll just talk a bit about that first because people usually start in year 10, right? And I think my school was trying it out for maybe the first time. And I definitely think it was a good idea. Starting in year 9, we were able to knock off a few GCSEs, and it gave us time at the end in year 11 to just do new subjects. So my choices in year 9 are almost all maths. You have to do English, language and literature. But apart the forced ones, I did them, but I didn't go into... To be fair, because like I said, we did them a year early and that gave us more time. I was able to cover quite a few subjects. So I had the maths, obviously. I did also additional maths on top of the 2 maths GCSEs. I didn't do triple science. In hindsight, that might have been a good choice.
Where are the humanities subjects? I'm waiting for the history and the geography.
I'm coming, don't worry. I got history, I did history, I did French language, I did Arabic language because I'm a native speaker. What else, man? Religious studies, PE, business, economics.
Are there any teachers that were particularly kind of influential and somewhat inspiring to you? Speak more about the support that you had at school during secondary times.
So when people talk about teachers, it's always this teacher's very strict. This teacher sent me there. This teacher sent me this, and I can't deny being part of a conversation like that. It must have happened, but I'm certain that I made I made an effort to stay away from those conversations, the ones that look down on teachers, because I really respect the work that they do. They're bringing up the new generation. The dynamic, like I said, I don't like mixing social things with academic things. Right now in Cambridge, it is mixed because that's the life you live. You're in Cambridge. That's your social life, your academic life, everything. But in school, it was do your school, do your work, get good grades, do well, and then you have your social side. You're chilling with your friends, chilling with your brother, chilling with your family. then coincided with a lot of things that I believed in throughout my time in sixth form and secondary school. And that felt good. Yeah. And it also meant that the stuff that I believe in is true, or someone else thinks is true as well. And I did see its impact. Yeah. Like briefly coming back to like the respect thing between teachers. When you show respect to that teacher, I saw my other colleagues showing respect to me. So when I was respecting a teacher and the teacher would say, Zach, go up and show them how to do this question, I'd go up and they'd treat me exactly like a teacher. Just briefly. Yeah.
Like, that's really interesting to hear. I definitely share a lot of kind of those thoughts and those memories as well. So when it came to year 11 exams, because you already had final exams in year 10 and year 9, what was your mindset? Were you definitely more comfortable? Were you still as nervous? What was your mindset essentially in year 11? And were you happy with your final grades?
I think to this day, I still get nervous with exams. Some people, because they're used to it, the nervousness goes. But yeah, throughout my time, listen, how many years have we been sitting exams? 4 plus 2, 6, 9. 9 years I've been sitting exams, and I still get nervous before exams. So I definitely don't think it's a bad thing. It shows that you care. So yeah, I was used to it. Of course, you get used to things. But yeah, I was still nervous. Like, I remember, okay, so like fast forward a little bit, when I was doing my sixth form exams, I remember not being able to put my pen back into my pencil case because I was shaking so much from nervousness. Yeah, I always get nervous, but yeah, it's fine. It's just part of the journey, right? It shows that you care.
What was your approach though, in terms of to your exams? Was there anything that you did that you feel is particularly useful for younger students to kind of hear?
So very different in GCSE and in sixth form and in uni. My revisions strategy changed throughout. So in GCSE, it was more focusing on subjects that I was very weak in. So I did a lot of work in history. I did a lot of work on Arabic because I had to teach myself that. I did a lot of work in English. Maybe I could have done a bit more in English. But something like maths, I maybe just did the work inside the class, did the homework, and that was enough for me. So if anyone's watching this, I urge you to find what you're weak at, I think, and that will push up your average grade. So work on what you're weak at first. And then, so that was my strategy in GCSE. And the rest will come to them, right? We'll come to them, yeah. Yeah.
Was there an ambition at the GCSE stage? Was there a further aim at this point, or was it just I'm just going to try and do as best as I can?
In terms of grades?
Yeah.
I don't think I gave myself a set number of A stars and A's I had to get before.
Are you thinking about university? I think that links to your question, like, because obviously you don't need, but like good GCSE grades will definitely strengthen your application to university. Were you thinking about university at this time?
So when we were in maybe year 9 upwards, our school took us to Cambridge multiple times. So, and in Cambridge they explained that GCSEs aren't that important, but they still count. So I did give them the importance they needed, but I didn't give myself, like I said, a number of certain grades I needed to get. So I didn't say, oh, because I'm doing this many subjects, I'm stronger, I'll get this many A stars. And it was just winging it, I think, if that's the best word to use, yeah.
What would you say that was the biggest lesson you learned from doing your GCSEs?
I think it's how to be well-rounded. It's a bit cliche, right? But yeah, definitely how to be well-rounded. The different disciplines that I did, because we were able to do so many GCSEs, I tapped into so many different fields, and it was nice. Because like I can be sitting down doing history for an hour and 10 minutes, and then straight away I'd go into an engineering workshop and just go make something like a screwdriver or something. So yeah, it's definitely being well-rounded.
Do you kind of miss that? Do you miss that kind of holistic curriculum?
When I was in sixth form, so straight after GCSEs, I did not miss the fact that we had to do English and other subjects. I did not miss it at all. I was so happy that I was able to specialize. But getting to uni, I see the importance of those subjects. Don't neglect subjects that you think you won't need. Like English, you need it. Like what language am I talking right now, right? English, you need to be able to convey your ideas. Even as an engineer, we write several reports. And obviously English is going to help with that. Even if your results are 100% expert, it doesn't matter if you can't write a good report. So pretty much everything you learn can be linked to what you learn in uni. Everything that you learn in GCSE can be linked to what you learn in uni, vaguely.
what A levels did you choose? And essentially, are you happy with the A levels you chose? With in retrospect, would you have chosen any other A levels? Especially given what you've just said about the importance of kind of having a broad set of expertise. So yeah, talk more about your A level subjects and kind of just unpack that part of your journey.
Yeah. So my A levels, I did maths, further maths, physics, chemistry, and in AS I did Arabic as well. But in A2 I dropped Arabic, so I kept those four.
So you and your friend in particular kind of knew what you were doing. You kind of knew what the program was, and you kind of knew what your ambitions were essentially. So how did you gain? What was your motivation? Like, can you kind of like put it into a sentence? What was your motivation in year 12 and year 13 to go to the back of the classroom and kind of just sit down and do the work? What motivated you to do that?
Yeah. Honestly, I think the main motivation was getting into Cambridge. I wasn't really thinking about getting into Cambridge or any other universities up until year 13, when I knew I wanted to go into Cambridge. So that was the biggest motivation, and it's good that I had my friend there, because maybe if I didn't have someone there, I would have slacked off. He was a hard worker as well, so he kept me on point. So maybe like every time I turn up to the class that he was in as well, he'd always have done more work than me. So I'd be like, oh man, I need to up my game, which is good. Yeah, so that was the main motivation. At that point, I knew I wanted to get into this university, and yeah, that's what I was striving for.
Okay, so you've mentioned Cambridge now. So let's go into that into a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
Talk to me more about the process of applying to Cambridge. Kind of what like walk me through the journey to eventually getting an offer to study at Cambridge.
Right.
Like, what did you have to do to get that offer?
So the first, if I'm not mistaken, it's UCAS, right? You apply for UCAS first, and so I did my research. I already knew that GCSE grades didn't matter too much, but I was pleased with my GCSE grades. And the next thing, the daunting thing when you're applying to UCAS, personal statement. We all know that. And when we went on a visit to Cambridge previously, maybe a 10 or year 11, I remember clearly that the presenter, the speaker, said that you should make sure your personal statement stands out. It shouldn't start with like from a young age, from an early age, all those cliche things. They get like a ridiculous number. I don't know the number exactly. They get a ridiculous number of personal statements starting with that line. So you have to make sure that when the director of studies or when the admissions read it, they remember, I remember this guy. Like, I'll keep him in mind when I'm reading the other ones because he stands out. That's what you want to do. So that was
the first line of your personal
the first line.
or the first kind of what was your spark essentially? What was your kind of memorable aspect of your?
Yeah, so they told me, the speaker said, start it with a wacky line. So I did. My first line was, I remember opening a door.
To this day, I have to mention this. Yeah, to this day, Zach's personal statement is the best personal statement I've ever read.
Mm-hmm. If he gives us his permission, we will have to share that. You know what I mean?
And I've like helped people make personal statements and all of that. And that I still remember it to this day. That's why it's funny. And I mentioned that at the start about interrogating doorknobs and things like that, because I still remember to this day the opening paragraph. I couldn't believe it. I was like, nah, this is from a book. This is not a personal statement.
You know what? Wait, Saadadeen, if you don't mind, Zach,
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit more from like a third person perspective.
Yeah.
Why Zakaria's personal statement, or at least the introduction, was so good and so powerful.
Do you know what? I think a lot of the times a decent personal statement is written in a way that you can almost anticipate. I think for me, what made it above that is that I didn't know what was going to come next.
Okay.
But everything linked to his course engineering, but in a very, I don't know what word to use.
The only word I
but
can think is unique.
It was
You know
just,
what I mean?
yeah, it was just very unique. And basically what he did in the opening paragraph, because I know he's not going to say it, or at least he's not going to speak about it in the same way I will. He basically spoke about the first time he looked at a doorknob and he looked at the hinges, the hinges of the door, and how they used to like fold and unfold when you close and open the doorknob, and how that sparked an interest. And the way he spoke about the detail, and he was very fluid in terms of the jargon in terms of like you speaking
Technical
about
words and stuff.
you speaking about this screw and using this name for that screw and this hinge for that hinge. So I was just I was taken aback when I read it.
Let's take a second to clap. Quick clap for Zakaria.
I'm looking
That's
at
impressive.
yeah.
For someone so young, that's impressive, man.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. I just wanted to mention quickly because I think my third paragraph in my personal statement was almost entirely, like a big chunk of my personal statement, almost entirely on work experience. So if you're looking at studying a subject that maybe requires work experience, which engineering is definitely one of them, looking to get into work experience. Because I know that back in the day we used to do that day work experience in year 10 or year 9, and then there was also the year 11 or year 12 2-week experience thing. I made sure that I got into a good work experience. So the next stage of the application was so you send off UCAS and then you hear by October whether you've got an interview, right?
I think for me personally, I heard in November or December. The interview was in December.
You might be right.
Mistaken, did you take a STEM paper or like a step paper, or did you do anything like introductory kind of entrance exams?
Okay, make it clear that I did not take STEP. Okay. I'm shook of STEP. It's very difficult, and usually STEP replaces a whole A level for mathematics students. They're advised to drop a subject just so they can pick up STEP.
So you didn't do no entrance exams?
I didn't do STEP.
Okay.
But so when I came for an interview, I did only one interview, but I had one exam that could be split into 2 stages. We'll talk about the interview first, yeah?
Yeah, let's talk about the interview.
Okay, so the interview, like you said, I think I heard of in November that I got this interview, and it was in December itself, maybe 4th of December, I think. Can't remember exactly. So I went for the interview. You know, all the standard stuff, like you don't need to dress formally, but don't dress in things that are inappropriate. So I just casual jumper, jeans, I think. I just went in. My parents were a bit shocked. They're like, how'd you go to an interview without formal wear? But yeah, they didn't know. But we got told specifically, yeah. And it's fine in the Cambridge interview, you're allowed to do that. So I go in, and in my interview, there are 2 interviewers. One is not a professor. What's the word below professor?
Supervisor.
I guess. No, there's fellow. One was a fellow. So one was a fellow and one was, I think, a PhD student. They had different specialities. So one was specialized in electrical and information engineering. The other one, I think, was mechanics. And that really affected the questions they asked me. So the person who was specialized in electrical engineering, he gave me a question about probability, because the probability has like a large influence in information engineering. And he also asked me to draw a graph. That's standard. I think anyone who applies to do a maths-based subject has to draw a graph. Mine was I think sine x over x or something like that. To be honest, I took a bit long in that question. But I think let's go through the questions. I think specifically because I think that will help. No. We're here to help. I'm here to help the students that are applying. So the first one about probability, I think it was like if you have n number of students in a room and d number of days in a year, what's the probability that none of them share a birthday? So I was starting to work through it. I had seen something similar before, so I kind of knew the track I was going in, and I wrote down an equation. And you know how they tell you when you go into like a Cambridge interview, you have to be vocal, you have to show them what you're thinking. So I was doing just that. I was like, okay, so maybe I need to multiply it by this, add this, and then I think I missed a key part. Without going too technical, I missed something to do with the number of days, and I couldn't figure it out. And I sat there, I was like, ooh, what should I do? And before I went to the interview, I was told that you can't ask for help. And it's normal to ask for help. And so I was literally just stuck there, just didn't know what to do. And I asked for help, and they just helped me, and it was fine. It's fine. What they want to know is whether they can teach you. The interviews themselves are exact replicas of the supervisions that we have. They want to know if you're teachable. They want to know if you reciprocate what they're telling you. So I didn't get it, and they helped me, and it was fine. Drawing the graph, sine x over x. I knew how to do it, and I was doing some gradient points things, and he stopped me like in the middle of that question. He's like, from what I can see you're doing, you'll get it in the end, but we don't have time. So he moved me on. So that was the first person who was asking me questions. Okay. Oh yeah. And before they asked me, why do you want to study engineering? But they don't focus too much on that. They just want to know if you're good, basically. Yeah. To be honest, yeah. I don't. I think it's a bad thing that they don't focus on your desire. They just want to know if you're good. But I guess if you're applying to Cambridge, they know you've got a desire already. And it was the second person asking me the questions now, and he showed me a picture of a person holding a suitcase, and he was like, draw the forces on the diagram. And yeah, so I just drew them some sort of conservation laws. I can't remember exactly.
If someone was about to have their Cambridge interview tomorrow,
Yeah.
and they were asking you for advice to do engineering at Churchill College,
Yeah.
kind of what three pieces of advice would you give them?
Definitely a big thing is it's fine to be nervous. They encounter so many students and almost all of them are nervous. Maybe like a handful just go in and they're completely not nervous. But it's fine to be nervous and it shows that you care. I've said this before, it just shows that you care. The second thing is to be vocal with what you're doing. I said this before, and you just have to show them that you know what you're doing. So every step that you take, there's probably more, you can apply it more to science-based and maths-based subjects, but every like a step in an equation or every step in a thought that you make, you just say it. Just speak your mind. The last thing is, what's the last thing? Maybe enjoy it. Yeah. Because towards the end of my interview, I lost my nervousness and I just enjoyed it. These people are like, they're at the forefront of academic development. These people are the smartest people in the world. Just enjoy gaining knowledge and sharing knowledge with them. I think that's the best thing.
I definitely agree with everything you've just said. So you've walked me through your personal statement, you've walked me through your interview. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the next step is whether you get an offer or not. Yeah. So talk me through the day you received your confirmation email or letter. Talk me through that day.
Listen, I think that's the only day I cried when I was above 15 or something like that. That's it. Like, since 15, I don't remember crying, like, apart from the day I went downstairs, I opened the letter, yeah. So they tell you the date you're going to get your offer, and so you just expecting it. And I went like I think I was asleep, and then
you're tearing up now. So these are the tissues. Grab the tissues, bro.
No, I was asleep, I think, or I had just woken up, and then one of my parents, I think my dad, said, "There's a letter downstairs. Go grab it." I grabbed it. Yeah, just opened it. It was a good feeling, man. Yeah, you've been accepted to Cambridge, Churchill College. Conditional offer. You have to achieve. My condition was 2 A stars and an A, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they specified the subjects that I had to get the A stars in. Yeah, I think they made it, by specifying the subjects, they made it harder. I think because they might have if I remember correctly, I think they specified an A star in chemistry. Even if it's the least relatable subject to engineering, they specified it in chemistry because I think they knew that was my weakest subject. So say, for example, I was getting an A or an A star in maths and a B in chemistry. Like, okay, let's say I do the A2s now. I'm going to follow the same average and I get A and A star in physics, or in maths, sorry. But that would require me to work in chemistry more as well. So now that pushes up all my grades. And I think that's the route they wanted to take.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speak a little bit about your parents, how they took it, how your school took it, and things like that.
Okay, my school was definitely more happy than my parents. yeah, they definitely bigged me up way too much. My parents are people who, of course, they're happy if their kid gets into Cambridge, but I think they like to believe that getting into Cambridge is not the only way to become successful. You know, many people go to a different university and become way more successful than a lot of the graduates from Cambridge. So they understood that, and they were happy for me, of course. But yeah, it wasn't as much as my school, who, as soon as someone goes into Cambridge, they write it down, publicize it. I think my personal, when you first told me that you read my personal statement, I was surprised. How did it get around? And it's got to be my school sending it around. Yeah, because when you get your offer, it's not the end of the day. You need to make it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think out of all those three, school, parents, and myself, I think I gave myself the most pressure. My parents were fine. Like I said, they know that these are just stages in life that You just go through, and it doesn't define who you are, and it doesn't define whether you'll be successful. My school, they, they obviously want someone to get into Cambridge from that school. But I think when they know you're level-minded, they don't get too involved in what you do. So I think the biggest pressure came from myself, the fact that I wanted to do it. I wanted to get in.
What did you do on a school day or a weekend, whatever you feel comfortable talking about, so that they can kind of see the level of work that you were kind of undergoing?
Right. Before I say it, I'll say that there are probably people who have done so much more than me, and there are probably people who've done like nothing compared to what I do. So it all depends on yourself.
Definitely case by
That's what I'll say at the start. What I did on school days, I had maybe a lot of free periods. So, okay, in year 12, free periods, I'd chill in them. In year 13, after I had my offer, my free periods were almost like entirely work. Entirely. I'd sit down. Revision-wise, I was revising by doing past papers, and I think that is suitable for someone who's doing maths subjects, maths, science. Maybe not suitable for someone who's doing something history where you have to remember things. I would sit down, give myself a time, hour and a half, I think it is, sit down and do all the papers. By my exams, I did every single paper I can get my hand on as preparation. And I timed myself. I knew I have X many days before I get to my exams, before I get to this exam, one paper a day. That's what I do. So that was on school days. Go to the lessons. In the study periods, I'd actually revise and not chill. When I get home, I'd do the homework. That was my school day. On weekends, I think Sunday, I kept it as a relaxed day. I think you should always have a balance, always, whatever you do. So I think it was more relaxed. I think even if I looked at a few notes or looked at a textbook, I think it was still relaxed. But Saturday, I put in a shift as well, just past papers. That's all I used to revise and looking at textbooks and notes.
Talk to me a little bit about the day you received your grades and you knew you were about to head to Cambridge. Talk to me about how you were feeling. Like, what did it mean to you?
I still remember how it went. I think it might have been sunny because usually on results day, listen. Because usually in results day, it's always raining. Like, I think apart from year 13, it has always been raining results day. Like, sets the mood. Yeah, but I think that day it might have been a bit sunny. So I walked into school, and as soon as I walked in, you don't go all the way into the school, into the classroom to get your results there. At the door there, and they give you your results there. And all the teachers were lined up there. And before I opened my results, my maths teacher, who I was very close with, he was like, "Congratulations, well done."
Right, we need to open the letter.
So I knew. He was like, "Well done." I knew, yeah. So before I even opened the results, I knew, and then I just got the letter and opened it. I was just really pleased. Yeah. A lot of people at the end of sixth form, they always tell their friends, "Yeah, we're gonna keep in touch. We're gonna stay in touch." And I think I said it to loads of people, but I think I ended up with only a few of them that I really kept in touch with. And I'm grateful for that. People leaving your life and entering your people leaving your social life and entering your social life is always a blessing. Because as soon as I got into Cambridge, I was surrounded by intelligent people, and the people who I kept in touch with from sixth form were really people I was close with and I wanted to spend my time with. The rest were kind of like acquaintances rather than friends. So I saw it as a blessing. And when I got to Cambridge, the new people who came in, that's also a blessing. Just new faces, new people, new personalities. It was nice. That's in terms of the social life.
What was your attitude towards meeting new people? Oftentimes people come in and it's freshers week and you're promised a lot of things about university. This is the place you make your friends for life. Yeah. But you also spoke about how you were it comes across you were quite mature even from quite a young age. So how do those two things reconcile?
Main thing I say is just be real. You don't want to make friends on a fake basis and then just have to maintain that or struggle to maintain that. Just be real. Just everyone is going to find someone that they can connect with and chill with in Cambridge or in any university. So just find someone that's right for you. Find your group, right? You don't feel pressured that you have to go out with your roommates, the people you live with. You can find, so let's say you're interested in align with them. You can find other people who align with your interests in other places, other societies.
Cambridge is renowned for its sort of academic rigor, it being relentless, the terms being short and demanding. So how did you, having done pretty well coming into Cambridge, how did you confront that?
Yeah, man, you do so well in GCSEs and A levels, and then you get to Cambridge, you're just hit by a brick wall. Everyone's smart. You don't stand out anymore. You're not taken care of as much by teachers. You're not pampered. Yeah, so I think it's up to you. It becomes very independent, as I'm sure everyone knows in university. Um, so it went from being, okay, I've got this, to, okay, I need to work to get this. Um, so it's definitely rigorous. I want to shout out my mum, the late night calls, just keeping me going. Yeah, it's hard work, but it pays off, and you learn from
Your
it.
experiences going to lectures and supervisions, how did you kind of prepare for them, and how did you find them, and how were they at the beginning?
It's weird, isn't it? You go from being in a class of 30, I don't know, other people have like 60, but I was 30, and you go into a room with 300 students in lecture theatre 0 in the engineering department. It's 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 weird because there isn't any like teacher student interaction anymore, or barely any. Sometimes they ask the questions, but it's like depending on the lecturer. But you just now you just sit down and you try take in everything the person in front of you is saying, and I found the experience nice, and yeah, it was cool, just having someone who's is amazing in their field, just walk up and down the front explaining concepts that are super difficult. Yeah, it was cool.
Um, Especially for all of the students that are thinking about studying engineering at
Yeah.
Cambridge, can you kind of like paint a picture of what your first, second, and third year
Yeah.
entails? Like, what modules did you do?
Right.
And kind of like just get to the nitty gritty aspects of your
Yeah, yeah. So in first and second year, I'll say this first. In first and second year, you're unspecialized and you study everything, all the different types of engineering, mechanics, electrical, structural, fluids, materials. You study all of them in your first and second year. In second year, you get a small choice on one of the modules, but it's insignificant. You still study everything.
What did you choose?
I chose aerospace engineering in second year, so it's a small part of a module you choose two. I chose project management and aerospace engineering, and maybe that led to me actually picking aerospace engineering. So in third year, you decide. And I must say, it's not like maybe other universities where you pick the name of the engineering you want to go into. You don't do that in Cambridge. You pick modules, and the modules define what you graduate with. For example, if you pick a module, say, I don't know, mechanical vibrations, that of course that module is linked to mechanical engineering, but it can also apply to other engineering. So it may apply to information engineering because it has a link with the vibrations, or it may apply to structures, the vibration of solids. So you pick a combination of modules which satisfy certain engineering fields. So the modules that I picked satisfy aerothermal, aerospace, and mechanical engineering. And that's the full name of my degree. And that's what I did in third and fourth year. So in first year, you go in, you study everything. There are team projects you have to do, and it's standard credit. What standard credit is that as long as you turn up and you do the work that's required, you get full marks for coursework. Which is good. There's less pressure on the actual lab work and more pressure on your studies. It's just good. So you go in this is the coursework. You go in, you do your group projects, you do the lab, you do a bit of coding. They teach you coding as well. Do what you have to do, and you get the marks. Second year is the same. It's also standard credit. Oh yeah, and I must say that if you think that you can study engineering and expect to do no essays or anything, yes, you won't do essays, but you're still gonna have to write reports. So don't forget that you're still gonna be writing things. And it's not just maths and.
What does the report look like? Because I'm a history student. Saadadeen does theology and law.
Yeah,
What's the
yeah,
report? What does the report look like?
It's worth explaining because I didn't. They told me the same thing. You're not going to do essays, but you're going to do reports. But I had no idea what a report is. A report, you do a lab, and that lab is something. So you have an objective. You want to get something out of the lab, and so you get results that you can put into tables, figures, graphs, and you write a report about that. You say, here are my results. Here's what I expected. Here are the conclusions I could draw from. So the report structure is like a summary which explains what the report is going on, or what's going on in the report, introduction, results, discussion, conclusion. And that's pretty much the structure for all like the theses, PhD theses, and like reports, professional reports you see from researchers follow a similar structure. That's what a report is. In third year, it's not standard credit anymore. So you're actually marked on your coursework. And of course, you have your studies alongside it.
Do you want to speak a little bit more about your coursework in third year?
So in third year, we had to do 8 short reports on labs that we did, and those labs are linked to the modules that we picked, and then 2 full technical reports, which are a bit longer, 10-page limit, and they're supposed to be more whole and more complete. and talk about things that you wouldn't normally talk about in the short reports. So 10 in total, 8 short and 2 big. In fourth year, you have your big fourth year project. So you have no labs, you have no reports to write, bar the reports for the project. And so you're studying in the meantime. And to make it to be very clear, you have your big project and you have your exam modules. And within the exam modules, you have modules that you're actually going to sit a paper for and modules you have coursework for. So project, exam, and coursework. In the coursework, you do your labs, like I said, and you write reports on them. Any number of reports depending on the actual coursework module itself. My one was 2 for each coursework module. And then the exams are just normal lectures and then revision and then going in, doing the exams. Yeah.
Interesting. So, Zach, speaking to you and knowing you personally,
Yeah.
there seems to be a lot of constants in your life to sort of a bedrock at home to provide you with support, the level-headedness that you had throughout your schooling experience. But one of the themes that we try and pick up on the Road to Cambridge series is turning points. So looking back now, how would you say that the Zach in fourth year, about to graduate, is different to the Zach that came in on Freshers Week?
Yeah, I'd say a big turning point in my life was maybe second year exams. Two turning points. The first turning point was first year. At the end of first year, sorry. You go in and you don't know what you're expected. You've been banging high marks in A level, and you go in and it's like a sea of knowledge that you need to like just contain just so you can do exams, and it's a lot, and that can be daunting. And 70% in university is good marks, whereas in A level is it like borderline C B, right? Which is good in itself anyway. But yeah, so you're going from knowing everything to not knowing or barely knowing anything. And so that was a turning point. From first year, learned that my strategy. So do you know how I said I had revision strategies? So the GCSE was working on things I was weak in. A level was past papers. In uni, I learned that although I'm doing like a maths-based subject, you're not going to learn everything with past papers. You have to write notes and actually learn the content and then work on past papers because I've rarely seen a question which is exactly the same in uni papers. They're not exactly the same in A levels, but they usually change like numbers. But in uni, they wouldn't even change numbers. They just bring an entirely new question. And when you're doing the past papers, you're thinking, how can they make another question about this? But they come next year, they make a new question about the content. So you have to know your content. It's not you can't just sit there and do past papers. You actually have to know what's going on. So that was a turning point. The second one was second year, end of second year, because I found second year exams tough. And yeah, it just changed my mindset. I think after second year, I stopped doing kickboxing and I stopped football, and I was just having my social life and my academic life, no extracurricular activities. I don't regret it. It was fun. It was nice. But yeah, I think that's just what you have to do when you're at Cambridge.
In your life so far, what adversity or challenge are you most proud to have overcome?
Okay. So this is my whole life, not just Cambridge.
Not just academics.
Right. I think from a young age, I've always been quite someone who doesn't like public speaking, someone who's maybe not socially awkward. Maybe the best words to say is maybe like socially nervous, if that really means anything. But yeah, I think from like in the journey I've been through, I've just maybe like social intelligence. I've gained a lot of social intelligence, and main things I find out is to just, like I said, leave unnecessary arguments. Don't set your expectations for people too high, and just be chill around people. They're the same as you. They're human beings. Everyone's a human beings, and everyone should be down to earth. And yeah, just relax and just enjoy it. Legit. Being around people, having people you can be around, having people you can eat with, chill with, talk about studies with. It's just a blessing. Yeah, and that's the journey. That's the thing. That's the thing I grew out of. The being nervous to meet new people and to just talk.
Amazing.
On that note, the final question we want to ask you, Zach, is where do you go for when you need inspiration?
Parents. My mum's there as a figure that I can always talk to, always very calm, always placid. get me back on the right path. My dad is someone that I could always look up to, anything he does. So he actually did a degree in Algeria, thermofluids engineering, the same that I did. And when he talks about his experiences and how he loves studying so much and what he did in this scenario and that scenario, it just gives me hope. And yeah, I just want to live my life, not solely to please them, but for myself and also to please them as well. Yeah, they've been a big part of my journey and they've been huge inspirations, and I thank them daily.
And we thank you, Zach.
Thank you
Thank you
daily.
so much.
That was very touching, bro. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Thank you for coming in today.
That was a great way to, I think, get episode 2 over the hill.
Over the
Thank
hill.
you for having me.
No worries, bro.
So guys, my final message is set yourself a goal and just strive to do it. You're always going to be faced with challenges, but just keep going. And hopefully you can get to where you want to go.
That's a wrap.